into it. Here's the first question from Uzaifa. He says, sorry, I zoomed in too much. How long is your first call with the business owner where you review the directory listing? It depends, but it depends on how the conversation goes, but it's usually 30 minutes. Sometimes it goes longer, depending on how the conversation is going. Some tree professionals are very chatty. It's like nobody's ever taken the time to have a discussion with them about their business. Like I feel like that's the case because there's a number of calls that I get on, and it's hard to get off the call because they just keep sharing more information about their business and stuff, and that's fine. I don't rush it. I don't try to rush them off the call because remember, guys, I'm trying to develop a relationship. That's the whole process here. The whole reason why this process works so well is because of the way that we nurture the contact up until they become a paying client, right? And then we further nurture them beyond that. Don't get me wrong. We don't just like, hey, the sale's made and that's it. You'll never hear from us again. No. We've developed a rapport and goodwill through proper communication, right? And so again, when I get on the calls with them, they're usually about 30 minutes. That's my kind of average time. If the call's not going well, they're shorter. They're usually, 10 to 15 minutes, but I usually spend about 10 minutes discussing the directory listing. And then after that, the rest of the call, however long that is, which is roughly typically around 20 minutes, it's going to be about what we identified through the process of publishing a directory listing, which is where there are opportunities for improvement. That's essentially what we're doing. Remember, it's the problem-agitate-solution framework, copywriting framework, right? Which is, as old as copywriting, right? Problem, agitate, solution. So we identify the problem, we agitate it a little bit by kind of talking about how, they're losing work to competitors because they have these deficiencies or these issues that are preventing them from performing better in the digital space, right? And so we agitate that problem a bit, and then we introduce low-cost solutions that help them to start to address those problems. And we're not telling them, hey, these are going to fix these problems. No, I introduce low-cost solutions that help them to start to address those problems. And I even phrase it that way because $99 per month subscription, remember, we have kind of 3 primary front-end services, and then we now also have an answering service that I can sell. So that really becomes kind of a 4th service, but that's for those that already have leads coming in that need better lead management. Those that don't have a lot of leads coming in yet or not enough and they want more, then it's the other 3 front-end services. So local lead generation sites or LLG sites, Google Business Basic SEO, and reactivation and reviews, which is database reactivation and reviews generation and management. So I call it reactivation and reviews, okay? Or reviews management, whatever, but it includes the reactivation campaign as well. And so I will introduce those problems or those solutions, I should say, on the call, depending on what seemed to be the most relevant or pressing, the most appropriate based upon when my VA, my assistant, when she publishes the directory listing, that's when she takes notes about where they have problems in their digital presence, and she puts that in the contact record in high level so that when I'm calling or on a Zoom meeting with the contact, I have the high-level contact record open and all the notes. And I can see specifically exactly which services or problems they were found in their digital presence by my team member. And I can introduce those as low-cost solutions. So that usually, like I said, it takes roughly 20 minutes or so to kind of go through that process. And then I don't typically try to close the client on the call. I mean, don't get me wrong. If they're ready to purchase, I send them a checkout link. But I don't stress the closing on the call. Not at all. In fact, I even tell them at the very beginning of the call, like, I'm not going to hard close you. I'm going to show you what I want to show you. And if it makes sense for us to work together, great. If not, hey, the door's always open to you. You can always come back at a later time when you're ready. And guys, time and circumstance changes everything, right? They will typically, if you have provided something of value like a directory listing, and you've been an ear for them to talk to, right? Like you give them your ear and you allow them to talk about their business. You ask them leading questions about their business. Again, the spin selling formula. Right? SPIN, S-P-I-N, situation, problem, implication, need, payoff. It's the sales method that I adopted, and it works incredibly well. It's where you ask the client or the prospect, the contact, questions about their business, but they're leading questions that when they answer, they convince themselves through their own voice, through their own words, that they've got a problem. So you don't have to, I mean, remember, we introduce some problems to them and then ask them questions about those problems. And they, through their own words, convince themselves that, and that's what agitates the problem. Do you understand? We introduce the problem on the call and then ask them questions about those problems and how it's affecting their business. Like, well, how many leads are you currently generating per month or per week on average? Okay, what happens when that lead comes in? How is it handled? What is the typical time frame between when the call comes in and or when it's received and when you return the call? Like, we go through this series of questions, and shut up. You ask the question and you shut up and let them answer. Don't inject yourself so that you can with more about SEO and this and that so that you can sound smart in front of the prospect. No, let them talk. The more they talk, when you ask the right questions, the more they talk, the more they convince themselves that they need help. You understand? That's the whole point of the spin selling process. So when I get on a call with them, look, guys, I'm 100% transparent about the intent of the call and how the call is going to be conducted. I mean, I tell them right up front, like, I'm going to introduce you to some low-cost options that are going to help you to start to address these problems that we've identified, but I'm not going to hard close you. If it makes sense for us to work together at the end of the call, great, let's work together. If not, hey, the door is always open to you. You're always welcome to come when you're ready. And again, time and circumstances change. Circumstance changes everything. So by leaving that door open, right, by communicating with them and building rapport before you ever get to that call, and then by not trying to hard close them on the call, but giving them something of value and then being an ear for them to talk to, right? Like lending them your ear and asking them questions about their business to where you seem genuinely interested in their business, and then allowing them to talk. Remember, guys, one of the best ways to be considered a great communicator is to do less talking, right? And ask questions of who you're communicating to and allow them to do most of the talking. When you survey people, like and this has been proven by many sales books and everything else, like, or in sales studies and all that kind of stuff, that those that ask questions and listen and allow the other party to talk the most, when you survey or ask the other party, like, how the conversations went, they always say, man, that was a great conversation. Like, when they're doing most of the talking, it's always a great conversation. You get it? And so the whole point here is you're giving yourself to them to allow them, you're acting as a sounding board almost for them to kind of vent about their business. And then again, like I said, at the end of the call, if they're ready, I send them a checkout link. But if they're not, I say, hey, there's no problem. Listen, I don't expect you to purchase anything today. It's perfectly fine. What I'm going to do is just ask your permission, if it's all right, if I send you a few emails over the next few days about what we discussed on today's call. Is that fair? And I nod my head. And I always ask, is that fair? Should we proceed? Is that okay? Whatever. And I nod my head. And they say, yeah, that's great. No problem. And I say, in every email that I send you, there will be a link to either schedule a call with me or to go, purchase whatever it is that we talked about on today's call. But don't hesitate. If you have any questions or whatever, just schedule a call with me and we can jump on a quick call and we'll chat it out. Does that sound reasonable? Nod your head. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks. Okay, great. Well, I appreciate your time today. You'll be hearing from me in the next couple of days. And we end the call, and that's it. So usually about 30 minutes. Sometimes it goes way longer. But the whole point here, guys, is you leave the door open, right? And non-confrontational, aggressive sales tactics, right? So that when they're ready, who do you think they're going to think of? You think they're going to go search for somebody else that they don't know, and then subject themselves to hard closing tactics and all the other stuff that mostly happens? Or do you think they're going to come back to the person that spent time providing them something of value and communicating with them without ever expecting anything in return, at least not initially? You see what I'm saying? And it works, guys. They come back months later, sometimes years later. I talked about this, I think, last week, but I had a tree service contractor that got in Fort Myers, Florida area. They're in Pine Island, St. Mary's, I think, or St. Charles City, I think it's called. It's on Pine Island. It's off the coast in the Gulf area. Anyways, long story short, they got hit by that hurricane 3 or 4 years ago. That was like, it wiped it out basically. And he was a tree contractor client of mine. And so once he got hit by, he was like, look, I got to cancel services. We're so swamped with, emergency work and cleanup work that I'm not going to be taking any new kind of leads at all for months. And so he said, I'm going to have to cancel SEO services. And I said, look, man, I understand what you're going through and I appreciate it. And I do. So therefore, I'm going to continue doing SEO for you for the next few months anyways, for free. And when you get back to a point where you think it's, you can subscribe again or whatever, just contact me. And I kept going for 6 months. And then eventually I contacted him and and had a conversation with him, and we agreed that I would just cancel my services at that point. But I did it for 6 months. It was very minimal work because I'd already got him ranking. So it was very minimal work. It's maintaining citations and a few links here and there that I built and stuff like that. But it's very minimal work. And I didn't charge him a dime. Um, well, that was like whenever that was. That was whenever that hurricane hit the Fort Myers, Florida area and Tampa area, which was several years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago now. Anyway, long story short, I got a call from him last year he said he wanted to sell the business. So he gave me a call to ask like, hey, is there anything you can do to help me to sell the business? And I created a landing page for him. And I said, well, look, because we had done some review generation and list reactivation stuff for him when he was my client. So when he asked to sell he told me he was looking to sell the business. I said, look, well, I've got all your contacts from when you were using my services in the Tree Care HQ app, which is high level, his sub account. And I was like, I already have all that there. I can do an email blast for you if you'd like to a sales page. So I set up a sales page in his sub account. And then I just did an email blast for him, did 2 emails out to his list for it. Well, he ended up selling the company. Excuse me. He sold the company, and I got a call from him about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago now, where he was like, "Hey, this is Gerard Sikoria," and he was like, "Hey, I was just giving you a call to let you know I did end up selling the business." And he goes, "And now I'm working with the new owner to kind of help them get into the take over everything and integrate it into the company and all that kind of stuff." And he said, I'd like to kind of present some marketing opportunities for him, and I wanted to see what you could do. So here's the thing. I kind of refreshed all of his reports, his link analysis reports, his rank reports, all that kind of stuff. And I recorded a quick video reviewing all the data, and I sent it to him and said, here you go. This is what I suggest. And he said, great, I'll relay it to the new owner and we'll get back to you. That was, like I said, 4 or 6 weeks ago. I haven't heard back from him yet. But the point that I'm trying to make is, do you see what happens, guys, is these kind of things occur when you treat your contacts properly and you develop a relationship, you nurture them, you warm them up. You develop rapport, right? You create goodwill, right, between you and the prospect to contact, so that they think of you when they are ready. And time and circumstance will change everything. Like they will be ready for something. And when they are, who do you think it's going to be? You think they're going to go find somebody cold, or do you think they're going to find the rarity that was willing to talk to them and provide them something of value without expecting anything in return, didn't do any kind of nagging, hard sales tactics or anything like that? It works. They come back months later, weeks later, sometimes months later, sometimes years later, and they're ready to make a purchase at that time. So I think it's a great, great strategy, guys. I'm telling you, it's one of the best strategies. It's the most successful strategy I've had for lead generation and sales since I started. Okay.